Hello, and thank you for coming to join me again. As always, I will be telling you a story today. And today, the name of the story shall be Quack, Quack, Stick to My Back, which is an old Italian fairy tale, and one I quite enjoy. Now, once upon a long time ago, a king had a daughter as pretty as a picture, whom all the princes and noblemen would have liked to marry, had it not been for the bargain she had made with her father. Because respecting your children's boundaries is very important. This king, mind you, had once given a large banquet, and while the guests all laughed and enjoyed themselves, his daughter made no expression and sat very serious and solemn-faced. "Why so glum?" asked all of her table companions. She answered them with total silence. And they all tried and tried to make her laugh, but every one of them failed. "My daughter, are you angry?" asked her father. "No, father, I am not." "Then why won't you laugh?" "Why, I wouldn't laugh even if my life depended on it." But then the king had an idea. "Fie! Since you are so determined not to laugh, let us try something, or rather, let us make a bargain. Whomsoever shall make you, when marry you, shall first make you laugh." "Very well," said the princess, "but under this condition. Whoever tries to make me laugh and fails will have his head cut off." Because nobles love to do that sort of thing, just randomly murder people who can't make arbitrary bargains with them, or arbitrary goals with them. But it was so agreed, and all the guests did witness the pact, and the royal word was once given had to be kept. So the news spread to the four corners of the world, and all the princes and noblemen began competing for the hand of the lovely princess. But every single one who tried lost his life. Early each morning, the princess would go out on her balcony and wait for a suitor to come by. Time was passing, and the king was becoming more and more afraid that his daughter would end up an old maid, because obviously that's way more important than all the people who are getting killed because she won't laugh. Now, word of this also reached a certain country village, and you know how people like to sit around at night talking about all sorts of things, and so they got on the subject of the princess's bargain with her father. And a boy with scalp disease, the son of a poor cobbler, listened open-mouthed. At length he said, "I shall go myself and try." "Don't be silly, my son," answered his father. "I am quite serious, father. I am going, and I shall set out tomorrow." "Those people are serious too," said the cobbler, "and they will put you to death." "Father, I intend to become the king." "Ha!" they all laughed. "A king with scalp disease." The next morning the father had forgotten all about it, when his son came out and announced, "Well, father, I am leaving. Here everyone looks down on me because of my scalp disease. Give me 3 loaves of bread, 3 gold florins, and a bottle of wine." "But just think what you're letting yourself in for," said the cobbler. "I have," said the boy, and with that he departed for a place where people didn't insult you just because you had an illness. He walked, and he walked, and he walked, and he walked, and then he met a poor woman trudging along the side of the road with the aid of a stick. "Are you hungry, madam?" asked the boy with scalp disease. "I certainly am, son. Could you give me something to eat?" He gave her one of his 3 loaves of bread, which she ate. But since she was still hungry, he gave her the second, and feeling truly sorry for her, he ended up giving her the 3rd one as well, because being generous is a virtue, though perhaps not always to a fault. On and on he went from there, until he met another woman who was clad in tatters. "Could you give me a little money, my lad, to buy myself some sort of dress?" Well, he gave her a florin, but then he thought 1 florin was perhaps not enough, so he gave her another, but then he felt sorry for her, so he gave her the 3rd as well. And on and on and on he went until he met another woman who was old, wrinkled, and panting with thirst. "Dear boy, give me something to quench my thirst, and you'll save a soul from purgatory." Well, the boy with scalp disease handed her his bottle of wine. And the old woman drank a little, and he kept on telling her to have some more, until she had drained the entire bottle dry. She looked up at last, and was no longer an old woman, but a lovely young maiden with a star in her hair. "I know where you are going," she said, "and I know how kind-hearted you are. because the 3 women you met were all none other than myself. I shall now come to your assistance. Take this fine goose, carry it with you wherever you go, and whenever anyone touches it, it will quack. It will cry quack, quack, and you must straightway say, 'Stick to my back.'" And with that, the beautiful maiden vanished, because strange people are mysterious. The youth continued on his way, carrying his goose. And he came to an inn that night, and having no money, he took a seat outside on the bench. The innkeeper emerged and was going to drive him away, when his 2 daughters appeared and saw the goose. They said to their father, "Please don't send this stranger away. Invite him in and offer him bed and board." The innkeeper looked at the goose, and realizing what his daughters had in mind, said, "Very well, young man. You can sleep in a nice room upstairs, and we'll put the goose in the barn." "Oh, no, you won't," said the youth with scalp disease. "The goose goes where I go. It is far too fine a goose to stay inside a barn." And besides, suspicions of thing, and I'm sure he had some idea what they were up to as well. After dinner, the youth retired for the night and put the goose under his bed. As he slept, he thought he heard something stirring, and all of a sudden the goose said, "Quack, quack! Stick to my back," the boy shouted, and got up to see what was going on. The innkeeper's daughter had crawled into the room in her nightgown, grabbed hold of the goose to steal its feathers, and now she was stuck to it in that position, in her nightgown. "Help, sister, come get me loose," she cried, and in came charging the sister, also in her nightgown, and grabbed her first sister around the waist to pull her loose from the goose. But the goose cried, "Quack, quack," and the young man added, "Stick to my back," so the sister stuck to the sister. And that's what you get for trying to steal things. The youth looked out the window and saw it was almost day. He dressed and left the inn, followed by his goose and the 2 young ladies who were stuck to it. Along the way, he met a priest, who, noticing the innkeeper's daughters in their nightgowns, exclaimed, "Shame on you 2! Is that any way to be going about this hour of day? I'll show you a thing or 2. And at that he began to whip them. Quack, quack went the goose. "Stick to my back," said the youth. And so now the priest was stuck too, because that's what you get for trying to beat people and get them to stick to your morals. Everyone has their own morals. As long as they're not hurting anyone, leave them be. But they moved on. 3 persons now sticking to the goose. Whom should they meet but a coppersmith loaded down with pots and pans? "Oh my goodness, what's this I see? A priest in a position like that? Just let me at him," and the coppersmith whacked him hard. Quack, quack went the goose. "Stick to my back," added the young boy with the scalp disease. And the coppersmith stuck 2, pots and all. That particular morning, the king's daughter was on her balcony. As usual, when this strange group came into view, the boy with the scalp disease, the goose, the innkeeper's first daughter stuck to the goose, the innkeeper's second daughter stuck to the first, the priest stuck to the second daughter, the coppersmith with the pots and pans stuck to the priest. At that sight, the princess burst into peals of laughter. And then she called her father, who also burst out laughing, and the entire court looked out the windows and laughed until their sides hurt. And right in the middle of all that mirth, the goose, and everyone stuck to it, simply disappeared. There remained only a young man with scalp disease, and he went up the steps and introduced himself to the king, and the king glanced at him and noticed his scalp disease and his coarse old clothes, all patched up, and had no idea what to do, because, you can't keep bargains with poor people. That makes you look like an actual human being. "My good lad," he said to him, "I'll engage you as a servant. How's that?" But the boy with scalp disease refused the offer. He wished to marry the princess. To gain time, the king ordered him bathed from head to toe and clad in normal garb. When the youth reappeared, no one recognized him. He was so handsome that now the princess fell violently in love with him and had eyes for no one else, because appearances are apparently everything. Putting first things first, the young man insisted on fetching his father immediately. He pulled up in a carriage and found the poor cobbler on the doorstep grieving over the departure of his only son. Well, the youth took him back to the royal palace and introduced him to his new father-in-law, the king, and his bride, the princess, and the marriage was celebrated at once. Because, there shouldn't be any complications with these sorts of things, and, if you make a bargain, you probably should stick to it. But that's a discussion for another day, my friends. I hope you enjoyed my tale. And as always, I'll see you again next time.